Secretary Vaaneman, thank you for coming and inviting us to your home here outside of Winter. We're talking about the future of agriculture. You get to kind of lead this ship in a way as our secretary with the South Dakota Department of Ag. When we talk about the future of farming, the future of ag, what does that look like to you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming out to the farm and interviewing me. We love to have people come and see our place. So I tell you, I'm super excited about the future of agriculture. Clearly, technology is alive and well in the agricultural industry. And clearly, without a doubt, I believe the next generation is really going to have the opportunity to lead us in a brand new era of agriculture because of the technology that's out there. So I just think there's a lot of excitement and a lot to look forward to, a lot of changes, and it might be some of the practices and things that we currently do, but will be enhanced and made easier because of the technology. So I think it's a bright future, and I'm excited about it and anxious to see it all evolve.
So agriculture, our #1 industry here in the state, when we look at other parts of the country, how do we compare in terms of the way they're moving forward and their advancements, and how do you think South Dakota will stand out compared to other parts of the country?
Well, I'm super proud of South Dakota and the producers that we have in our great state. I fully believe that South Dakota is always going to stand out. As you said, agriculture is our #1 industry in the state, and we're proud of that as South Dakotans, and we embrace that. We have a business climate that is really beneficial and helpful to industry that wants to come into South Dakota, whether it be some processing, whether it's livestock development, but we embrace those things and make it easy and helpful and welcoming for those to come in. And as South Dakotans, we all know that we do a phenomenal job raising the commodities. They're high quality, whether it's livestock or crops, and we all know that we can get more money back to the producers if we can add value to those commodities before they leave our borders. And so by having a friendly business climate that we can get the processing and livestock development in our state is going to help South Dakota be the state that stands out in agriculture.
We've talked about technology and the advances that we've seen in the ag industry. What do you think are the top 5 advances in terms of technology and agriculture?
I think the one thing that is really beneficial to the producers right now is the amount of data that they have that they can use to be able to make their decisions as they start their planting season or whatever. And that data is being aggregated. Some farmers are doing it themselves. There's different companies that help aggregate that data. But what it does is it helps them, instead of just setting their fertilizer at whatever rate going across the entire field, they're able to put on more where the soil needs more fertilizer and less where it doesn't need as much. The soil is more fertile. So just those kinds of things really, really help. And then I think probably the other thing that really stands out to me is the seed technology and where we've come. I mean, as we sit here at Ideal, South Dakota, we're kind of on the very western edge of farming country. And, clearly, 15, 20 years ago, we were the edge of it. But now, if you hop in your vehicle and continue to head west, you're going to see corn, sunflowers, a variety of row crops and farming that is stretching all across our state. And it's because of the technology that's in the seed that allows that to happen. So I think between the data that's available to help producers make better decisions to be more efficient and the seed technology are probably the 2 things that really stand out to me.
As we drove up here today, it was misting, and that's on top of excessive moisture all year long. Farmers, ranchers, they are tied to the weather. Whatever happens is how well they may or may not do at the end of the year. What are you hearing in terms of our 2019 going into the 2020 season?
2019 clearly is an unprecedented year and one that I hope we don't see for a long, long time. And, it kind of started back in the fall of 2018. Most of the state had excessive moisture. Producers weren't able to get in the field and do their fall work and preparing the soil and that. And then that just Mother Nature just kept going. She gave us a lot of snow, followed by a lot of spring rains. And so clearly this year has really been a tough one weather-wise. You know, I've talked to producers over the summer where some producers haven't gotten any of their crops planted. Talked to some that, you know, under 50% that got planted. So clearly the weather this year, and all of that is weather related. And so the weather has really had an impact. And you know, I'm an optimistic person. I'm hopeful that 2020 will be somewhat better. I have to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous because the fall of 2019, we're as wet or wetter than we were going into the fall of 2018. So hopefully we'll get through this and Mother Nature will maybe be a little kinder to us in 2020.
I've heard recently from the National Weather Service that was normal will no longer be. The abnormal is actually normal now. For years, farmers and ranchers, they've adapted. They've tried to figure out how they can succeed despite the weather. Do you think this will be a continuing conversation? Will we have to see more adaptation between those in the ag industry?
You know, diversification is great. I mean, it helps with the weather conditions that we can't predict and can't control. But there's a lot of positives with diversification that if you can, you know, get some more crops in your rotation, that in areas where there isn't as much moisture, that it helps retain some of the winter snows and brings that moisture down and helps with overall the soil health and productivity. So I think anytime that we can diversify and be looking, you know, for new crops to put in our rotation or new grazing patterns for our livestock is all going to be, you know, beneficial to help adjust to these new abnormal weather conditions.
I know that some in our ag industry, they're facing some financial hardships because of the weather, because of other reasons. Bankruptcies are up about 8% in South Dakota, and that's just not the ag industry. It's a variety of reasons. But what conversations have been had, at least between the Department of Ag, on what help is available to these that are facing hardships? Is there help available, and where do you suggest people look to?
You know, that's a great question, Stephanie, and just to let you know that through the Department of Ag, we actually have, through our Ag Services Division, we have a mediation service, and that is provided to borrowers that anytime their loan exceeds $50,000, they are offered mediation before any lender can take action or foreclose or anything like that. And unfortunately, we have been seeing the numbers and the need for our mediation services have increased. And we're doing a lot. Over the last couple of years, we've actually brought our own in-house mediator in, and that's proven to be very helpful in helping with the program and that. So we have that available. Also, since I've been in this role since the first of the year, have started having my staff look into a little bit more of some international marketing opportunities and checking that out and seeing how we can build some relationships and maybe to help ward off some of the issues that we have with the tariffs and the trade issues and so on and so forth, if we can make some direct connections and that. So we're just kind of testing the water there and checking out that. And then of course the Department of Ag has been collaborating and works with SDSU Extension and Avera with the Farm and Rural Stress Hotline and that. So those are a few things that we're doing, and clearly our heart goes out to the producers in the state because it's just been an unprecedented year with the weather on top of 4 or 5 years of low commodity prices and that. So we're trying to reach out and do what we can.
On top of all that, we have to encourage the next generation to look at ag as a profession, to possibly take over those farming and ranching operations that have been in the family for years. How do we teach the next generation how important ag is to the world and convince them to look at that for a profession?
You know, as I said earlier, I'm just really super excited about the future of agriculture. And you know, I fully believe that it starts at the early ages. It starts by getting into the classrooms at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade level, talking to those students. And I know there's a lot of commodity groups that certain day, cheese day, that, you know, they might go in and help them make pizzas, and, you know, there's a lot of those things going on. And I would like to be able to collaborate with any of those kinds of organizations in that, because we as producers, we need to tell our story. We need to be proud of our story, and we need to build that trust with the consumers and with the youth. And the thing is, there's so many opportunities in agriculture. And if you want to go into science, engineering, marketing, policy, we need all of those professions in agriculture. So it's not just thinking that I'm going to get my hands dirty and drive a tractor, or, you know, sort cattle or whatever. It's all those other professions are needed in the ag industry as well. And so if we can get that story out to the young people, and if they have an interest in science, they can still do science in the field of agriculture.
Since taking over as our Secretary of Ag, and you look at some of those challenges impacting the ag industry, what are some of those bigger challenges that you've seen that you're hoping to tackle and help the industry overcome?
Well, obviously the biggest challenge that I've had since I've taken over in this role is been the weather, on top of all the commodity low commodity prices, and the tariffs and trade wars and things like that. So I think obviously I can't do anything about Mother Nature. She is in control, and she will do what she wants to do. But as far as some of the trade issues and things like that, there are things, as I mentioned, we're kind of testing and seeing what can find out, and relationships that we can build as far as some international marketing. And then I think I would like our department to continue to work with commodity groups and ag groups across the state, that we can collaborate together, pool our resources, and really be talking the same message, because at the end of the day, we're all wanting to promote South Dakota agriculture. And I think if we can do that in a very unified voice, it's a win-win.
Well, thank you for taking the time to visit with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was great.